Hi class, today I wanted to do a short lecture on getting you prepared for Essay 2, which is on our protest song unit. Last week you gave some great ideas on specific protest songs, and I want to go over just a few of them today, and then use one of them to help you think about developing your own thesis statement. So let's first review the protest song paper prompt, which asks these questions. Give an example of a protest song, album, video, or live performance. What makes this song a protest song? How are protest songs like this one, effective tools for social change? So these are some questions that you've been thinking about for at least a week now, and today this week you're really going to start thinking about them. And in today's lecture, I'm going to kind of show you which questions you're going to want to be focusing on while developing your thesis statement. So just as a reminder from last week's lesson and video lecture, I went over what a thesis statement was. And so just as a quick reminder, we want to make sure that your thesis statement has a main idea and an assertion. Sometimes we might confuse the two, and so I wanted to make sure that we're in this presentation, I'm color coding what is the main idea and what is the assertion. So hopefully you can follow along with those two colors, the green and the purple. So some skills that you'll be developing this week while thinking about this topic and this prompt will be some critical thinking skills by developing your main idea and assertion, and really understanding what those two things are and how they're different, and how the assertion kind of helps further develop the main idea that you've come up with so far. You're going to analyze how protest songs are tools for social change. What are the different options and considerations that protest songs take into account and offer to their audience and to their listeners. And then further, for our own kind of community building in our online class, you're going to be thinking about what your classmates have put on these discussion boards and sharing your thesis statements based on last week's discussion board main ideas. How are you and your classmates further analyzing those main ideas through your assertion? Okay, so some ideas that you all brainstormed from last week were some good ones. Someone posted about the song Imagine by John Lennon, how they saw that as a protest song and definitely a call for peace. The song War by Edwin Starr, it was a nice surprise to see that one come up, as it's also an older one. As a protest song that was kind of straightforward, right, and kind of with a catchy tune, and was able to kind of reach a wider audience. And then finally, one that was actually from one of our readings that someone really liked once they really thought about it and investigated it was Lauryn Hill's Black Rage, which was in response to the police brutality against Black men, particularly after Mike Brown's death. So in developing your thesis statement, we're going to be taking this main idea from last week's discussion board, Lauryn Hill's Black Rage, and I want you to think about the question from the prompt, which is, how are protest songs like this one effective tools for social change? So there can be many responses to this question, and I encourage you to come up with more than one response to this question for whatever song that you are choosing to focus on in your paper and in your thesis statement. So here's one response, one of many that you can come up with. Because the song takes the conversation to a more diverse audience, it creates a space for their voices to be heard. So I'm imagining that with this assertion, with this further explanation of this song, that this writer can talk about in the rest of the essay, this writer can talk about in what those spaces are where these voices can be heard. How is this song creating a space that is different than, say, the news media, the mainstream news media, or from other spaces that are mainly heard. So we want to think about how your assertion kind of open up the conversation about this topic and the main idea. So let's try to bring it all together in the single thesis statement and see how it matches with the formula for the thesis statement that we've been covering over the last week. So just as a reminder, that is the formula for a thesis statement that we've learned from our book and from last week's lecture. So here is the sample thesis statement. Lauryn Hill's protest song, Black Rage, responds to the epidemic of police brutality and creates a space for diverse voices to be heard. So let's see which part of this thesis statement is the main idea and which part of this thesis statement is the assertion. I want you to take a few seconds to just kind of, again, reread and think about that thesis statement before I kind of outline which is the main idea and which is the assertion. So go ahead and read that back to yourself in your head. Okay, let's go ahead and see which is the main idea and which is the assertion, and if we really do have those two elements in this thesis statement. So Lauryn Hill's protest song Black Rage responds to the epidemic of police brutality, which was one of those main ideas we got from last week's discussion board. And then further discussing and explaining that idea, this writer is asserting that this song creates a space for diverse voices to be heard. So that calls into question, okay, well, how does it create a space for diverse voices to be heard? Where does it create a space for diverse voices to be heard? And so on. And if you can raise questions like that about the assertion, that's a sign of a good thesis statement. And if you were to answer those questions, that's a great start to topic sentences in your essay. All right, I hope you found this helpful, and I look forward to reading your thesis statements and topic sentences.